We have a lot to catch up on. Hello, and in today's video, I am doing a very exciting one. We were going to do it the last couple of days, but we felt we'd choose this one, and we're going for it. In FPL 2021 to 22, we are finding the next John Lundstram, the next Stuart Dallas. Here is my pick of the out-of-position defenders in Fantasy Premier League. Now, I've got to be honest, there isn't too many of these this season. The game's not been kind to us. The position changes haven't been ideal. But there are one or two that we will talk about and try and get through, basically. And one of those we'll kind of talk about as a Watford player, what an absolute baller he is. Even though he's technically not out of position, he's really attacking. But also we'll talk about others. And whilst we're on the subject of John Lundstram, the man who did so much for us in our FPL teams in 2019 to 20, he is no longer in the Premier League. John Lundstram had a poor season in 2020-21, and he's gone off to Rangers. So, it's not a bad signing for Rangers. I think it's a big loss for Sheffield United. I know that he had a bad season, but, considering he might be punching for Rangers, to be fair, but at the end of the day, he's still got something left, so he's gone there. Interesting. But I got to talk about signings whilst I'm on it. There has been an absolute joke of Watford transfers. It is crazy the last few days. So let me just try and slowly, work it through it, basically, because it is a lot. The main one that's, grabbing everyone's attention, Joshua King. What a signing. The Norway international has agreed a 2-year contract with a club option for a further season. Yeah, sorry. Watford FC tweeted that out. It was a great signing and it got me going. It was like, yes, Josh King, what a signing. And also, we've gone and got Peter Etobo. All right, you might not know who he is, but he's from Stoke. Apparently a really nifty little player, good at protecting the ball. We've also gone and signed a little bit of Mabude, who came from the Rangers team and worked his way up. 19-year-old forward, and he went on loan at Queen of the South. So he could be decent. And also we have signed a few other players in there. Especially, we've gone for the very interesting signing of... I think it's a good signing, but I guess we'll find out, really. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, we've gone for it, and we've signed... who was it? I've forgotten now. Oh dear. I think I've covered all of the signings. Maybe I have. Anyway, I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I just had to show my reaction to. There's been so many Watford signings recently. So yeah, it's mad. It's crazy. We're bringing in all the players, bringing in all the good boys and the good players, which is good. I'm happy about that, but we don't want to do a Fulham, which they did in the 18-19 season, where they just bought loads of players and then they never gelled in time. But I think we've got strong enough units in each position to kind of glue them together. And especially, I think, with some of the people like Emmanuel Denise, who some people have been, complaining about that he's got, attitude problems. He might do, but we can sort that out. And we know that there's a player inside of that, and we'll try and get that out and see how we can do in the Premier League. But yeah, there's a lot of options. Ashley Fletcher, one of them. And of course, now we have brought in the very good signing of Joshua King. So let's talk about what I'm going to focus on this video on the FPL Yellow Army YouTube channel. Now, you've got the likes of Stuart Dallas, who was absolutely outrageous last season. So good for FPL terms. He was something like 4.5 million, which is just an absolute joke in defence. But he was basically playing midfield. And he's so good at kind of doing both of those for Leeds. But he's now agreed a new 3-year deal with the Lily Whites, and he's begun... I say Lily Whites, it's really the Whites. That's more Tottenham, but they never use that nickname. But now he's begun pre-season training with his teammates. So he's nailed down to Leeds, and he has been brilliant. But season is over. the time of his reign is over because he's been moved to a midfielder. 5.5 million. I'm not having it. Nah. So basically, we've got to find a new one. And I think these are the contenders for the next out of position defender. Now, it's not ideal because we've had a few defenders move to midfielders, but also not many midfielders move to defenders. But let's just go through my contenders. The first one is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now, I'm not sure what the situation is with him right now, whether he will stay at Arsenal or whether he goes off on loan to another team. There were rumours at one point that Maitland-Niles would go to Watford, which I would be absolutely loving, but nah, it realistically won't happen. But yeah, he's a very attacking player. He almost plays in midfield at times because of that, role he takes, pushing forward and really trying to whip in balls. And if he did go to a Premier League team, or even if he stayed at Arsenal, I'm not sure how much game time he would get at Arsenal, but he still, does really offer something really great going forward. So he could be an option if he can get a move to a Premier League team. Tarik Lampty, now this sounds a bit weird because he's of course a defender outright at left back, but just because of how attacking he is kind of got the potential to get loads of attacking returns. He was so unlucky last season to get injured. He was a bright spark in that Brighton team at the start of the season, despite them losing those games where they just couldn't put away their chances. He was creating so much and looking a really, really good prospect. But then he got unlucky, and he's back now from injury, and he'll want to, start the season strong and really recover and have the strongest condition to have the fitness, have the minutes in his legs, but also get the points for Brighton by offering something going forward, but also offering something tracking back. So I think he's a very little nifty player to have at 4.5 million. Could be a great option. Not sure about out of position, but certainly a good option for going forward. Now we have Danny Rose, and this was the guy that I was, referring to earlier with my Watford suggestion. Again, I know that he's a left back, and just like Tarik Lampty, he does play in that position. I mean, Lamptey's more of a right back, I guess, but you can play Lamptey at left back, I'm pretty sure. Veltman at right back, yeah, probably the same position. But Rose is just so attacking. In his time at Tottenham, he did pop up with quite a lot of goals. And he was at Sunderland for one point. He was, all around the houses, really. He did have a spell with Watford, so, he's going to have that kind of Watford within him. He's united to the club, and he might not play every game. We have to take the risk with that if you want to go for Danny Rose, but you'd imagine he starts the majority of games, if not, even rotation with Adam Messina. But he's very experienced. He knows how to, do well in this league, and I think that he could be going forward a really good option. He loves a little cheeky volley, like he did on his debut against against Arsenal. And also he loves a little volley into the ground. I've noticed in his time at Tottenham, and then celebrating by cupping the mouth and running off. Absolutely loving it. So anyway, I think he's a good option. Why not? Ken Semmer is the next one. Now, this is not really applicable to the list because he's actually a midfielder on the game. But in another world where he got listed as defender, maybe he gets listed as defender next season if he plays that left back spot. Now, I don't expect it to happen. He was playing a left wing last season, but it's funny because he could almost be like a second hybrid and the second breed of Bukayo Saka. So we remember Saka played at left back for Arsenal in that season where they had lots of injuries. Then he moved up to left wing and he was just such a great option. And I think that he was still a midfielder in the game, but he's got that versatility, and it could mean that later on he gets a position switch. And that's the same with Ken Semmer. Now, left back is a position that Ken Semmer can do well in. He's going to be played left back only on the occasion that we have no fit left backs, but it's unlikely. But just watch this space with Ken Semmer because he can defend, but he also can go forward, and he's so good at getting those crosses in. So, yeah, it's not likely, but, yeah, it's possible. Matt Ritchie, this is definitely one of the ones to, listen to keep an eye on because, he's a midfielder, really. Let's be honest. He's so attacking in terms of he loves whipping in a cross, and he did that a lot towards the end of last season. So, I think he could be an option. He's been moved to a defender. He'll get the extra point for a goal, and, of course, lovely rack of points for the clean sheet. So, I think it could be a great option. Now, obviously, Newcastle aren't going to get loads of clean sheets, but as I mentioned, Newcastle, with Callum Wilson back fit to start the season, with some interesting, players you'd think they'd keep, like St Maximan, they could have another decent season. And I think Ritchie is so good at just getting involved and really putting in good balls for that Newcastle attack. So, could be an option. Now, the next one, I would maybe just avoid a little bit because we don't know about how much minutes he's going to play. And that is Ashley Young. But if he does, get a regular run in the team, he could be a decent option. Now, I can just see it now. First game of the season, Villa at home, ex-Watford player who said he would walk from, Milan to Watford to play for them to end his career. And he goes off to Aston Villa, the team that he actually moved to on a transfer whilst he, well, not whilst, but when he was at Watford in the 6-7 season, that's where he went. And then, it was a bit unfortunate. So basically, I can just see a goal being scored against us in that game. He, has gone with Aston Villa. And to be fair to him, he's very attacking. At Man United, he was used to playing that almost... it's a wing-back position, but he can play really, far forward. And, he's got goal threat. We saw that so often for Manchester United. He took free kicks at times. Not sure if he'll take free kicks for Villa, but at the end of the day, watch this space because he could be a decent option. He really does like attacking as well as defending, and why not? Ashley Young, although he is 5 million, I think it could be that little 0.5 over the likes of someone like Tarik Lampty or Danny Rose. But next up, we've got Max Aarons. Now, of course, we know these aren't actually midfielders; these are defenders, but you never know. If Norwich have some kind of, injury crisis, let's say without Buendia obviously in the team now, he's gone to Aston Villa, they struggle to find that player to fill in and solve that right wing spot. I know they've signed a player to replace him and they've got other options in there, but let's just say Max Aarons kind of plays more of a attacking wing back than a defensive one. He could be a great option because we've seen previous seasons how he gets forward and, actually is so attacking, and he's great at crossing in balls. Pukki's going to be wanting to finish those balls, and it's amazing that up to this point he's not been snapped up by a big team. Jamal Lewis obviously going to Newcastle and he's got barely any game time, but I think Max Aarons still does offer a lot going forward. Now the next one I have to kind of just dismiss because I'd written it down in my notes and then I've realised no, the transfer now has gone ahead since writing it. But that is Ben Wilmot. And I'm actually gutted about this one because Ben Wilmot was a very nice up-and-coming player for us, Watford. And, he can play in midfield, basically. He's a defender, but he can almost play in that CDM role and just help the attack kind of build up towards some chances. And, he got an assist for that goal up at Derby last season in the Championship. He can almost drive at the defence sometimes. But no, he did, of course, get sent out to Stoke. Which is a shame, but, there are other players in that kind of holding role that could be decent. Like, alright, Adam Messina, he's not exactly, attacking, but he did get a few goals last season, so he's got an eye for goal. He won't play in midfield, of course, but there are options there for a bit of rotation and, some defenders turn into, midfielders and vice versa. Now, Vitali Yano is my next one, and I don't know if he's actually a defender on the game. I don't think he is, but he might play a more defensive role. I just feel like Yano is so attacking either way, so he could be an option. And we've also got Henrik Dalsgaard from Brentford. Again, how much of an option he will be? Will he get the game time? But he could be decent. So those are my options. They're quite limited, I'll admit, this year. As I mentioned, we haven't got too many players coming through who look like really great, players to take on that title of the next out of position defender. But as I mentioned, I think Matt Ritchie's a very good contender. I think that maybe Danny Rose, if he starts playing really, going forward and just goes for it basically. I think it's actually a bit of a problem because there seems to be more out of position players in the forward line. When I say that, I mean players that have been classified as midfielders when really they can play as like a false number 9. You think of someone like Kai Havertz, and even someone else. I'm trying to think. You've got options in the forward line. St Maximan. I mean, I guess he's almost more of a midfielder, but but he's playing as a forward in the game, so I'm not sure I would be keen on that one. But maybe someone like Jakob Sørensen from Norwich City. Now, he's 4.5 million. Alright, Norwich's fixtures are pretty awful, but he could be decent because he joined them in 2020 and he actually is probably far from a nailed-on starter, but he's been classed as a defender, even though he actually finished last season playing as a central midfielder for Norwich. So Jakob Sørensen could be an option. And finally, we've got Brian Buermo. Now, Brian Buermo obviously finished the season quite well in the Championship for Brentford, and he kind of plays in that front three, but he's been put down as a midfielder in the game. He could be a decent option. And I guess you could say Marcus Rashford. Again, he's a midfielder, and once again, we haven't got that for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's been moved to a forward line. But Rashford, if he gets regular game time, that is the worry with him. He does have a lot of niggly injuries, and he is unfortunately just unable to kind of sustain that playing time. But if he does, then he could be a great option. And despite not having, the best of seasons, Rashford was still the highest scoring midfielder in the Manchester United team, I do believe. So, I don't know. Could be an option if he's out of position, but someone like Edinson Cavani could play more central. And then you've seen, Rashford getting those positions on the left wing to try and, get some points. And he could be a really good asset for the game. So that is my video done. Hope you have enjoyed. Smash a like on it, of course. And if you've got any suggestions of out-of-position defenders who really play in midfield, and that could be really good options to get those points, to get those FPL points, then yeah, feel free to drop it down in the comment section below. And of course, we'll have a little discussion and we'll try and pick out the juicy nuggets, the juicy players who might just go under the radar a little bit, but could be really good options come next season. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoy it. Smash a like on it. I'll see you next time.